If you have a 1-minute speech to give, here's the best way you can do that in a crisp manner. Now, when I say 1 minute, it could even be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, basically a short speech. And to do this, we're going to use a technique called as framework-based thinking. And the best thing about this technique is it applies even if you have time to prepare for the speech or if you have to give it in a spontaneous setting. All you have to remember is the framework CARE. Now, CARE does not mean to care for something, but instead it's an acronym which stands for Context, Answer, Reason, Experience. Now, let's break this down. First, a couple of things you should keep in mind if you have a short speech to give. Firstly, don't try to get too creative. We have a limited amount of time to convey a limited amount of information, and we shouldn't try to complicate that. Second, ask yourself what the main point of your entire speech is. That way we can be focused and focus on just giving one message throughout this short span of time. And lastly, keep in mind that your delivery matters almost as much as the words you're speaking. But for now, let's understand how we can use the CARE framework. So let's take an example speech over here. Let's say we have to speak on the topic, tell us about any one habit that you have adopted. Now, we don't want to answer this question in a straightforward manner by just saying, the habit which I have incorporated is of exercising. Instead, we want to be able to elaborate on this entire topic. So in the CARE framework, we start off with the context. The context is the setting that we're utilizing before we reveal the actual answer. Here we can say something to the effect of this. There's a lot of studies being done on habits. Some say it takes 21 days to incorporate one, some say it takes 60 days. But regardless of that, the habit which I want to speak to you about today is something that you don't have to necessarily do on a daily basis. In fact, it's one such habit that can also be extremely simple to apply or can be super difficult. Now, by this time, the audience is a little more interested to hear what your main answer is. So that's why the context is important, to build intrigue for your main reveal. In a longer speech, you want to build up the context more and more so that the reveal has a better anticipation level. But in this case, we want to keep it short and sweet. So we simply come to the answer and say, the habit which I'm talking about is that of patience. But not just any type of patience, conscious patience. This is the smallest part of our entire speech. We now move on to the reasonings. The reason I picked this habit is because patience and procrastination are two sides of the same coin. When we procrastinate, it's easy to wait for something and to not go after what we really desire. But the second it comes down to conscious patience, that's when things can get a little tricky. And the thing I like about patience is that it's not about getting to your goals, but about allowing yourself to enjoy process. Then we finally get to the experience, which is where we add the personal touch to our story. In my experience, I remember an interview I saw with Jeff Bezos long back. And he said that the philosophy that they were using when they were building Amazon was of aggressive patience. This means that when we have a lofty goal, we try our best to get to it, but we don't expect the results to come in right away. During that interview, changed the way I approach long-term goals and made me incorporate the habit of conscious patience. And that's it. That's an example of the CARE framework. If you have a little more time, you can also add an S towards the end and make it CARES. The final S can stand for summarize, which means exactly as it sounds. We simply summarize everything we've spoken about towards the end. Now, one of the most important things in delivering this particular speech is to focus on your tonality. And we've made an entire video on this, which you can check out right here.